episode 89 of Below the Belt in association with Boxing Social. Felonious, you're making your Boxing Social debut today. How does that feel?
Oh, God. I wonder what they're going to clip up of me then. Alex got clipped up last time, even though he's blissfully unaware.
Was I?
See what I mean?
Yes.
That's Alex. He had no idea. Everyone's heard your voice.
Yes.
He doesn't even know.
What was it?
Oh,
they clipped up your prediction.
Fuck you now. You shouldn't be allowed to clip up
You've got
predictions.
to pay attention. You've actually got... To be fair, yours was not as bad as mine. I went for the
hold on a minute. Yeah, they clipped up... I thought it was because you were like Dubois in 3. I didn't say that.
I fairly set this up and
they've got yours. It was a bit of both of us. It was half and half. It was half and half. T, as it's your debut, I want to put the first big meaty question to you, if that's all right.
Oh, God. Okay, go on then.
Should Daniel Dubois retire?
No, because he's 23. But I think he needs to have glasses and a big nose disguise in the future. You know, I mean, like in those cartoons. You know, he can't show his face again after that. Mugged up Joyce's mum, then she mugs him off.
Oh yeah, I love that little message she said. I saw you quit. Well, actually, no, I didn't. Cracked me up. Funny lady. For those of you that weren't aware, Daniel Dubois in the build up to the fight said some not nice things about Joyce's mum, who is mostly blind, like 93% blind, and now, she's kind of laughing. It was a cracking fight, wasn't it? I think for the first time in a long time, I got the pre-fight jitters, when they were kind of ring walking and when they were kind of getting in the ring. It was about to start that first round. You can, that tension, that feeling you get during a big fight. Did you guys feel that at all? Al, did you feel that?
I'd say jitters. I mean, I was excited because I genuinely wasn't sure who was going to win, and I kind of and I did flip flop a little bit. I thought after the first couple of rounds, I actually thought Dubois was gonna get him out of there, only because I wasn't really paying attention to the corners in between rounds, and also I thought, well, Joyce has taken a few shots, heavy shots, and he has taken a step back, and I just thought, well, if he keeps going with that, then I think he will get him eventually. But after a bit of time, it was two things that kind of made me realise that I think Joyce has got this. One, after a couple of rounds or 3-4 rounds, I actually thought, I think Joyce has probably taken all he's got now in terms of power, and he looks fine. And also, just the pure panic that was in Dubois' corner. Like, it was, this is the fight game. This is what it's all about. I'm like, we're not even in round 4 yet. Just calm down. Just like, look, I want you to do, you're doing this a bit too much. You're not doing enough of that. I don't know. It just all felt a bit rocky, like after in that corner. And he also had, they were trying to look after the eyes at the same time as giving him instructions, like his trainer. He didn't actually have anyone just doing the eye as well, which bothered me. But no, I was nervous, but I really enjoyed it, and I was looking forward to it as well. It was like properly looking forward to it. There hasn't really been anything in. I mean, was there anything in Fight Camp I was really hyped for? I mean, White Povetkin I was looking forward to. I'm not going to lie about that, but that really is about it. So yeah, it was first time in a while I've been genuinely interested.
Yeah, What about you, T? Does this kind of thing get you going, like domestic kind of heavyweight thing? Does that sort of thing do it for you?
Yeah, I mean, I was fairly excited. I think when the bell went, I was like, I don't know what's going to happen here, but a lot of people are saying Dubois was ahead and miles ahead, but I felt that the fight was never fought at Dubois' pace throughout. That was my takeaway from it. The commentators pointed out, probably about round 3, that Dubois' face was reddening because he just couldn't miss the jab. And I just thought that, he might get him out of there, but I just thought Joyce was in control. He seemed calm. He's got a very good chin, but then maybe Dubois' power is overrated. I think that was mentioned before the fight. A couple of his sparring partners have said, well, he's got power, but it's not Deontay Wilder levels where you get you out of there with one shot. So no, I think Joyce's experience showed a great deal. But yeah, it is nice to see a domestic fight, people risking the O. But I guess all the talk would be if he's another O'Hara Davis or if he can come again. But we'll come to that, I suppose.
Al, how was you scoring the fight? You know, going into, what was it? It was round 10 when the stoppage happened. How did you feel like the fight was going? How was you scoring it?
I usually do score fights, but I didn't this time because I was like, John, I'm just going to try and enjoy this, particularly with heavyweights. No, I thought after the first couple of rounds, I thought actually Dubois is catching him, and can he keep taking this stuff? And Joyce's style is very, like, it's slow, and it's not plodding, but it's, I don't quite know how to describe it. You can tell he's got obviously the fantastic amateur background, but also that, you know, it's just I thought he'd be a bit easier to hit. You know, Dubois' jab is decent. Just couldn't get going. So I swang a couple of different ways during the fight. But yeah, like I said, after a few rounds, I thought, do you know what? I think he has got him with everything that he's probably got, and Joyce actually looks all right. And then it was more alarming in the corners. I mean, Daniel Dubois at some point at certain pictures, and I know we're only seeing on TV, you can't see it in his brain, but he looked scared. Not scared might be the wrong word. Who am I to call, you know, Daniel Dubois scared? But he looked shaken, and that was it for me. I was like, I think he's just maybe froze a little bit. I ended the night feeling quite sorry for Daniel Dubois, but also, you know, very pleased for Joe Joyce because he seems like a nice dude. And at 35, he's going to have some opportunities. He won't get then boringly matched now. He's going to have to go for it, which is good for everyone. Yeah,
that's fair. T, do you think that perhaps, you know, Martin Bowers, he's been around for a while, but he's never trained someone that he's not like someone like an established name at like a world level, big fights, really, really big fights. Do you think perhaps his corner lacked experience, or do you think that Joyce was just too good on the night?
I think there's a bit of both. When you having all these fights and having it all your own way, you're hyped up by your promoter, which is his job. You know, saying, you know, you can fight Dillian White tomorrow and he'll give him a fight. You know, saying these kind of things, and you go into a fight and you're not having it your own way. You know, you're having your face jabbed off. They're taking your best shots. You probably needed that reassurance from his corner. And, you know, as Alex said earlier on, they're kind of giving them sort of generic boxing movie instructions instead of like, you know, move your head a bit for fuck's sake. He's jabbing you. You can't miss with the jab. Move your head. You know, take away his jab. Use your feet a bit. I mean, Daniel Dubois did have a little bit of an amateur career, but I think, you know, you need to be in the trenches, and maybe his team thought that this is a fight where he comes through a rocky period and comes over and you know, ends up on top, but he didn't this time. But I think it's all down to his age. He's 23. He'll bounce back. I don't see him getting rid of the Martin Bowers, but I guess conversations will need to be had.
But you know what, right? We need to start having this conversation and bringing into this conversation, but that's okay. That's okay to make a jump and then find out you're not quite ready. You know, everyone's saying about, you know, and I said it as well, but perhaps he might be better served by having someone like a Brian Jennings or whatever in before this fight. And it's probably true. But it doesn't make the fact that it doesn't make him wrong for taking this fight, particularly in the times that we're in. I know this was kind of booked before COVID, but you know, that's okay. That's okay to jump in the pool and find out it's a bit deeper than you thought. You know, because if anything, he's going to learn more from that fight at the weekend than he was arguably having, you know, a couple of mini step ups. You know, he would learn the same lesson, just a hell of a fucking lot quicker.
I think that's valid. Yeah, I think that's a valid point, and I think you're right. I think it's okay for him to go in against, you know, an elite amateur like Joe Joyce was, and he's clearly, you know, at a good level. He was unlucky in the Olympic final against Tony Yoka, and I think it's okay for him to have lost this fight. And I think it's clear now, hindsight being 2020, that Dubois wasn't given the fights in order to prepare him for a guy of Joyce's experience. And they'll learn a lesson from that. You would hope. You would hope that, they would learn a lesson from it. You said you wasn't scoring it, Al. Did you have kind of like a feeling of who was winning, who was not winning?
Genuinely not. I thought it was quite tight. The bigger the eye got, the more I was, I thought they might actually pull him out at one point. The round he eventually took a knee. I actually thought I wouldn't be surprised if they actually pull him out now because it was shut. And I was surprised that, well, maybe not surprised, but I was surprised that the ref didn't pay more attention to the eye in between rounds and maybe even ask for it to have be looked at least once in however many rounds it was, 8 rounds. So yeah, no, I had a feel. I kept going back and forth. I started to think, well, I think Joyce will get it if it keeps carrying on like this, and I think Joyce will get it. But there was, he'd then have a little flurry, Dubois, and then look quite tired. And again, that comes from someone hitting you back, So no, I went back and forth with it a little bit. I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to sit here and say that I knew straight away, but after a few rounds, I was definitely leaning more towards Joyce.
I think you make a good point about the referee. When we recorded the preview, Al, we made a big point about Ian John Lewis being the referee, and I think our concern was that he would jump in for a non-stoppage, a stoppage that wasn't. This time, that wasn't his failings. His failings was that he didn't do the thing that you would normally do, i.e. get the doctor to have a look at his eye after 4 or 5 rounds. Do you think, T, that, you probably, when you would check an eye normally like that, how soon did you think, fuck me, his eye's bad, T?
To be fair, I mean, I was watching on the stream, which is a bit naughty, so I didn't have a great look at it. I thought it was something that I'd probably pass, but I guess in hindsight, maybe 7, 8 rounds in, because it was clear it was being targeted. It's like a wrestling match with a target Randy Savage's knee over like half an hour. It's like that for the entire fight. Just same shot every time, same part of his face. He wasn't doing anything to avoid it. And maybe Ian John Lewis could have done better there, but it's difficult. I mean, this is all hindsight. What I wanted to ask you, Cal, was about the scorecards, because you posted them from the main podcast Twitter account. Could you remind us what the scores were?
Yeah, so one of them was really wide. There was a rumour going around that one had Dubois up by 8 rounds. That is not the case at all. Yeah. So the judges had it 86-85, 88-83, both to Dubois, and then the other card was 87-84 to Joyce. So the widest card was the 88-83, so Dubois up by 5, and I'm pretty sure that was John Latham that posted that one. I had it 86-85 Dubois personally, so that's the same as one of the judges, but the other two 87-84. I think personally it was quite a close fight, and there was a few rounds in there that were pretty close. And I think if you had either guy 1 or 2 rounds up, I think that's completely fine. I think 88-83 to Dubois is ridiculous, to be honest, but it's boxing, it's in Britain. Sorry.
No, so I was going to say, given their styles, it's about what you like, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think what was happening was Joyce was very jab happy, and that's totally fine because he couldn't fucking miss with it. He couldn't miss with the jab, and so he just kept throwing it, but he wasn't really throwing any right hands. And then I think it was in the second round and a few of the rounds after that, Dubois, his kind of tactic was to just fucking pile in. He didn't really have the finesse. He didn't have the footwork. He didn't move his head enough. So he would just fucking try and steam in with 1-2s. That was kind of the only thing he knew what to do. And that's why I said to you guys during the fight, I could see Dubois ahead here, because I think there'll be one judge that won't like just the jabbing and moving, and someone will like what kind of Dubois is doing.
Yeah.
Al, talk to me about the ending. Talk to me about the finish. Talk to me about what kind of your initial response was when he dropped to his knee.
Well, surprise, because you don't see it. I mean, you hear all the time about boxers saying I need to be carried out or die in the ring and all this, us as perhaps normal human beings thinking, well, that's just ridiculous, but you don't see it. So, it was shock. And then I thought he'd take a knee and then he'd get back up and he'd kind of retreat and go and maybe last the round, or the towel would come in. And it's difficult to know what to make of it, really. I was angry that Carl Frampton and David Hay went in on him as the whole quitting thing so much. Maybe it's because of his age. Maybe because of it was just such it was a big step for him. I just felt, I don't know, it's difficult as us saying, look, people like us saying, you shouldn't be quitting or whatever like that. But when you hear all the other boxers saying, as if he's, broken some sacrificial law, it just annoys me. And I don't know whether that's right or wrong, or what, that's what makes boxers, so you shouldn't do it. I don't know. But part of me was like, sensible. Do you know what? If you can't see and you're thinking, do you know what? I'm just not ready for this. Then why not take a seat and say, do you know what? I'll come back another day. Regardless of what people say or think, I doubt he's making all those decisions in his head at that time. But he clearly wasn't up for it. And and I said to a few people on Twitter afterwards, there was a couple of people saying, if he can't get through this or he can't stick with it, you've got to have that attitude at least, and going out on your shield. And I was like, do you know what? If he's got a broken orbital bone, which in from everything we're hearing that is the case, and you can't see, you've got a long career ahead of you. Hopefully, is it worth it? And we've seen people with broken orbital bones who have also, maybe not quite as evidently quit as that, but I felt Kell Brook, he turned his head away, and decided that he'd had enough against Errol Spence. We were like 30 feet away, and there's been other times that we've seen those types of injuries, and I don't know, it made me uneasy, the pile in afterwards. And I don't know whether that's right or wrong. I don't know, but I felt uncomfortable about it. That he should have to get, that he'll have this label. Now, I think that's unfortunate for a 23-year-old.
Yeah, I think that's a shame. And then, obviously people afterwards, and all the, even Boxing Social, it's there's full of people giving their 2 pennies worth, and as are we. Am I right in thinking that the decision shouldn't have been Dubois to make?
Well, I guess in hindsight, no. But also, again, it points to his inexperience. Maybe if he had a bit more ring generalship and the ring smarts, he could have maybe seen the round out, or maybe raised the alarm. Maybe told the corner, look, I'm really struggling in my eye. Maybe just give me one more round. It reminded me a lot. I think someone else brought up on Twitter. I should have probably made a note of their handle, but Gary Mason against Lennox Lewis, the same thing happened there. I think Mason had a detached retina, I believe, before he had a history of that, so the issues of his eyes anyway. Lennox hits him on the sweet spot, his face, contorts, and then Lennox powers it and the referee calls it off. Maybe Dubois, like Alex, I expected him to get up at 8 and just maybe see the round out, and then the referee steps in. Maybe that would have been seen as, maybe that wouldn't have been as much of a quit job, for want of a better term, than we saw. I don't know. But
I think maybe it's the eye bit. I think for me, I don't know where it is. Maybe because I work in an eye health industry, and I just know that the lines between a bad injury and then something that never ever comes back, to do with eyes in particular, is minuscule. It is fucking minuscule, and that shit's scary, man. I don't know. But then I'm not a fighter. I'm not a good one anyway. But it just makes me uncomfortable. It just made me uncomfortable. I'd like to think that he felt shit. This is bad, and he panicked, and that can happen to a 22, 23-year-old who's now evidently not, or probably also felt out of his depth at the same time. I think there should be some allowance for that.
Yeah, I think you're both right. I think it is the inexperience. Part of me likes to feel that when they saw him take the knee like that the towel should have came in. But again, like T said, the trainer possibly expected him to get up on 8, and then try to just kind of tuck up and make it through the round. So perhaps that's why he didn't throw the towel in. Also, as we've already mentioned, the referee could have had a check on it and taken the decision out of his hands. And that's kind of the concerning thing for me, is that the referee, there's a doctor. I hope there was a fucking doctor there. We didn't see him or her. And the corner, none of them thought, fuck, this guy's bad, let's get him out of here. It seems to be, and we've spoken about this before, about brave corners. And, the term brave corners is always used because of they're brave on their fighters' behalf, by making them keep going. But for me, a brave corner is someone that's willing to piss off their fighter and upset their fighter by making the hard decision, and that's sometimes throwing in the towel.
I will say though, I thought Ian John Lewis actually had a decent night.
He did actually.
I thought he, like I said, I was worried that he would kind of be in there all the time, but he actually let him clinch. He let him work it out quite a lot of the time, which was to Dubois' benefit. I didn't really have any complaints. I would have liked to think that he would have had a look at the eye, but there was hardly a huge amount of panic coming from the corner to it either. Specifically about the eye, they were just more panicked in general, really. So yeah, that's just what I wanted to say about.
I think the discourse around quitting is more the mentality of Dubois. It's not so much the fact that he went on his knee and took the 10 count. It's the fact that, as you said earlier on, he had a lack of ideas and it wasn't going his way. And then the eye just kind of compounded that. So it's going to be like, every great fighter going up through the ranks has a gut check. And normally a gut check ends in you winning the fight. You maybe taste the canvas a bit, come back, win the fight on points or knock the other guy out. His gut check ended with him quitting in round 10. And it's going to be important. It's going to be interesting to see how he comes back, if he comes back. And he'll have to put that to bed, because that's always going to follow him until he wins a world title, which, given his age, is a possibility. He's got a long way to go in his career, so we'll see.
So, really, I mean, the question is, has he just been matched and brought through very poorly in hindsight? I've watched, I've heard Eddie Hearn talk today. I was just listening to Frank Warren before we started here about, what's the, has he just been matched all the way through properly? Has he, the claim is really that he's only really fought English domestic title levels, and then gone into this, has, and as a BT, as a broadcaster's main project, main, long stay in terms of what their kind of coverage was going to be based around, other than Tyson, obviously, was Daniel Dubois, and has that clouded the judgment in terms of his matching and his progression, rather than actually what the benefit is to the fighter and his progression of his talent, and that's what's ended up putting him in this horrible situation.
What I was going to say, the parallel is Anthony Yard a little bit, because Anthony Yard and Dubois have a similar sort of trajectory. The three of us have been to a few woman cards that have both fought on undercards or main cards, and the people that are putting away of a similar level, Yard falls short against Kovalev, and Dubois falls short now. I mean, I don't think anyone predicted that that's how it was going to go. It's not like Joyce is a killer or anything. Joyce has got power, but you can see the shots coming. It's just, maybe it's styles. Maybe the style of Dubois fighting in straight lines was made for Joyce, and that's how the fight bore out.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he just, like we've said before, I think Dubois just wasn't ready. He wasn't given the fights that he needed to prepare him for a guy like Joe Joyce. And like you said, you see the shots coming. he's got pop. Obviously, he's a fucking massive guy. He's big. He was bigger than Dubois, weight and height, and he just wasn't prepared for it. He wasn't given the right fights for it. And then, you know what? Like Al said, that's absolutely fine. I feel like we, kind of like BT Sport, we've given most of our attention to Daniel Dubois, I guess because of the manner of the defeat. But Joe Joyce was excellent, wasn't he? It really was a very good performance. Al, what do you think? Where would you kind of rate him now, and what do you think is next for him, for Joe Joyce?
I think. Oh, hold on a minute. Someone's at my door. Maybe it's Daniel Dubois. I'll be back in a minute.
Go on, T.
No,
what do you think? What do you think is next for Joe Joyce?
Well, I think Usyk called him out. Yoka called him out. So just to be one of those two, I don't think it'll be Yoka because he's kind of fighting in France, not really a big fighting country. Yeah. Maybe 2021 is the year things happen for him, but I'm guessing if he's going the WBO route, Dubois was at number 2. I don't know if Joe Joyce gets that place automatically. Is that how? I don't know that works with the rankings, but
I think he'll be ranked pretty highly. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So and I guess with Sam Jones, he can fight anyone. There's no promotional clash from that point of view. But I'd imagine he'll fight Usyk, and I'd imagine Usyk will probably win fairly comfortably, given how he's fleet of foot. I don't see Joyce laying a glove on him, but what the fuck do I know? Probably go the other way.
I'm back.
Yeah, it just wipe him out in 2 rounds. Was that your Chinese, Al?
No, it was Frank Warren asking if I'd be the face of BT Sport.
Step in. Is Lyndon exclusive? Lyndon Arthur's pulled out. Alex is stepping in.
No, I've got Tyson Fury. What I really need is someone who looks exactly like him, but a bit shorter and a bit fatter. Can you do this job for me? What was the question about Joyce?
What does he do next?
Yeah, he was just talking about Joyce, yeah.
I mean, he's got, it's Usyk. I mean, it's just makes sense, really, So, which I don't think he wins, but he'll make some decent money, and that's fine. Joe Joyce is. I'm never quite sure whether he's bantering us or not in terms of like the way he talks and the way he handles himself. I don't know whether he's just kind of just so dry in his humour that I just don't get it, or whether he's just quite a simple matter of fact type of chap. He's never going to be massively box office in terms of his character, and his fight style isn't necessarily massively entertaining and Hollywood. So it's about trying to get him the most logical fights he can get whilst earning the most money, and I think that's probably the one.
Yeah, so I guess it's all about the politics, really. I was looking at the rankings earlier, and
he's top 10, aren't he?
Well, yeah. So before the fight, he was number 11 with the WBC, and he was number 11 with the WBO. By coincidence, he's not ranked by the WBA, even though he had the WBA gold belt, but he's not ranked by them, and he's not ranked by the IBF. I think that's probably because he had the WW. No, was it him or Dubois that had the WBC silver? It may have been that. It may be because he had the WBC silver, but Dubois was number 2. I'm not sure. You asked if he'll take that spot. I'm not sure if he will take that spot or if they'll move Joseph Parker up to number 2.
I think
Joseph Parker was number 3.
He does take that spot.
Okay, that's good then. If he gets number 2, that's Usyk number 1 and Joyce being number 2. And Usyk has said quite recently that he is looking to push his mandatory. He is looking to get his mandatory shot and get it as soon as possible. Really, he's not waiting around. He wants his shot. And so if Joshua wants to fight Tyson Fury next year, which everybody fucking wants, we all want that, then the WBO may strip Joshua, or they may say, okay, you can defend the WBO title in an undisputed title fight, and they may make like an interim title fight or a final eliminator between Usyk and Joyce or something like that. But yeah, I think you're right. I think everything points to Usyk. When Joyce was asked after the fight, the first thing he did was did the impression of Usyk, didn't he? he did an impression of Usyk, which was quite funny. Like straight away, he was like, I want you, Usyk," which is quite funny. That did amuse me. So yeah, that's what kind of makes sense now. And I guess Dubois, it's rebuilding, isn't it? It's back to domestic level.
Yeah, let's make sure he's healthy, make sure he's happy. Take a look, review, analyze, review his corner. Perhaps I think he needs more experience in his corner, as much experience as he can get, and maybe come back in a couple of 8-rounders, get yourself going again, and then look at fighting for maybe a British title when that becomes available and go from there.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. T, did you watch Tony Yoka?
Of course
I watched bits of it. It's a very weird fight. Very, very weird fight.
Yeah, he boxed Christian Hammer, and Christian Hammer looked fat. He did look like a slob, to be honest. And he's really lean, isn't he, Yoka? He's not quite like Deontay Wilder. He's not built like a center in basketball terms, but he's really quite lean and quite fleet of foot. Was you impressed with him, T?
It's difficult to really glean anything from that fight. It's Hammer is very awkward. It's one of the, I've not seen Yoka fight since the Olympics, so I don't really know where he is. He's had issues of missed drug tests, so maybe he's not quite as sharp. Maybe he needs to keep himself busy. But it's difficult to really glean anything from that fight. I don't think a fight with him and Joyce excites me in any way, but I get the logic for Yoka calling that fight out because maybe from his point of view it's winnable and it might get him a title shot, but it's difficult to tell. It's just one of those ones where the styles weren't a good mix and the fight kind of bore that out.
Did you guys see what happened after the Danny Jacobs-Gabriel Rosado fight with the announcement of the winner?
No, go on.
Did you see it, Al?
I haven't seen it, but I've heard people talking about it.
Yeah, so basically, just to inform everybody, so it was a terrible fucking fight. Awful fight. Yeah. And then it goes to the cards. It's obviously close because it's so awful. And the announcer reads the scores out and then says, the winner from Philadelphia, which is Gabe Rosado. But then after he says Philadelphia, he says Philadelphia, Brooklyn, New York. And he says Danny Jacobs. So Gabe Rosado's already on the turnbuckle thinking he's fucking won. And and then it's quickly turned around into Brooklyn, New York. And Danny Jacobs was like, fuck, thank God for that. Oh, it was awful. It really, really was. That guy needs to do something else. He needs to find something else to do for a living. But, we move on. This weekend is pretty packed in terms of boxing. Well, there's a lot of fights. I'm not sure they're all amazing, but there's a lot of fights. There's Saunders-Murray. Are we just expecting Saunders 120, 108 3 times, chaps?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. We move on. Should we move on?
Look, I don't want to disrespect Martin Murray. He's one of the toughest people out there. But it's a marriage. This fight is a convenience fight more than anything else. It's easy to make. It's a name. It's easy. It's relatively easy for Billy Joe. I'm sure Martin Murray would have trained, kept himself in decent shape, and he'll go all out for it. And he probably deserves this fight after it falling through twice. Let him have it. But we all know what it is.
Yeah, I think I saw that Zach Parker's on the undercard, and we've seen him box a couple of times because he's usually on the WBSS undercards, and I was pretty sure he was the mandatory for Billy Joe Saunders, but I was kind of surprised he didn't get the fight. But I guess he just doesn't have the name that Martin Murray does.
No, it's got to be that. But Martin Murray is just such an uninteresting human being, and I'm sure he's a lovely guy, but I just have no interest in watching him fight. Just don't care. I don't think I'll even watch it.
Yeah, the last time he boxed a big-ish fight was Hassan and Dam, and he lost. And Hassan and Dam's, he's shot to bits. And like you said, Martin Murray's a honest pro, and he was unlucky in the Sergio Martinez fight, and yes, he kind of got fucked over by Billy Joe Saunders, pulling out a couple of times. But like Alex is always saying, in this COVID kind of world, there's not really time to fuck around with messing around fights. I think, but it seems Billy Joe Saunders is always happy to have a kind of a messing around fight. I think the fight that everyone's kind of excited for this weekend is Errol Spence Jr. against Danny Garcia.
Yes.
Al, how do you kind of feel? Are you worried for Errol Spence?
I am, because you don't know. It's the unknown, isn't it, in terms of where he's at. You'd like to think that if there was anything that was a serious concern, he wouldn't it wouldn't be happening, and he would be going into a relatively easier fight, you'd say. But it's I am worried for him, because we all are a massive Errol Spence fan, and I just want him to be brilliant again, and hopefully that's what will happen. But I mean, Danny Garcia is someone that can take you to places that you don't want to be, in terms of intensity, in terms of having to be calm, collected, to ride through bits of intensity, and that's just what I hope he's still got, like that calmness. And I'm worried, but I'm also very intrigued, and that's what makes it doubly interesting. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's for the WBC and IBF welter titles. The last time we saw Errol Spence was last September, when he boxed Sean Porter in a cracker. To be honest, it was a really, really good fight. You can see why perhaps they've gone for a Danny Garcia, because he's not like a Sean Porter, is he? He's not going to make you work every second of every round. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, and they're two fighters where I guess no one knows where they are, where their level is really. Garcia's kind of had a few razor thin decisions before losing to, Thurman, then he lost to Porter after that.
Sean Porter.
It is a very, very intriguing fight for the pair of them. I think it's if it wasn't in a pandemic, I think that fight will probably do good numbers in terms of ticket sales. But no, I'm very excited. I don't know. It's a difficult one to call. I guess it all depends on what Spence has left. How badly was he affected by the accident? But what I wanted to point out was we talked about how fighters are brought along, with Dubois maybe having the fight too soon. I think Spence, looking at his record, is kind of perfect how he was brought along, really, because we all know about Leonard Bundu, and that was actually, that was almost not 50-50, probably exaggerating a bit. I mean, he only lost once at that point, but he fought Algieri and Bundu before fighting Kell Brook for the world title. So I think you look at Spence's record, he just fought pretty much everyone, and I think if he beats Garcia, that's got to be putting pressure on Crawford now. Crawford said he doesn't need Spence, but come on, for fuck's sake. Who are you fooling?
Yeah, he does need Spence. Terence Crawford needs PBC. He needs Al Heyman. He may not need Errol Spence, but he needs Al Heyman big time, because there's nothing going on for him on his side of the street. He needs to get over to Al Heyman and fight Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, Mikey Garcia, Keith Thurman, Manny Pacquiao. Like, that's where all the best 147 pounders are. I know, and that might hurt his feelings, and that might hurt Bob Arum's feelings, but those are just the facts, really. There's no one really over there that's really interesting or is really like legacy defining for Terence Crawford. Really, he needs the Errol Spence fight, especially, but as well as Keith Thurman and Sean Porter. I'd love to see Sean Porter against Terence Crawford. I think that'd be fucking brilliant.
Yes, I agree with that.
Go on.
Go on, Al.
What's go on. Sorry.
What are you asking me?
What do you think of the fight?
What's your gut feeling, or what do you think of the fight? And who's winning?
I think Spence. Let's take it as given that he's 80% of what he was. I think that's enough, and I think he'll I think it'll go the distance, and I think he'll probably be quite comfortable.
Well, like 117, 111, one of those ones kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm basing it on, of him being in a decent state. And he must be. He's not probably not short of cash, and if it was really an issue, could he just walk away? I mean, who knows? But yeah, I think it'd be all right. If it's 80% of the Errol Spence that there was before, no problem.
I could see a late finish actually in Spence's favour. Spence and Crawford are probably two of the best finishers in the business, and I think if he has Garcia in any sort of trouble, he might do him in. Garcia's got a very, very good chin. I think in the Thurman fight, I don't know how he didn't go down in round one. I think it was in the Thurman fight, but I think if Spence has him in any trouble, he could get him out of there.
I think if it was a normal Errol Spence and none of this had happened, that would be the only outcome I could see happening. I'm just thinking maybe a little bit pragmatically, perhaps.
Yeah. No. I was just looking. Danny Garcia's 32 now, which isn't. It's not old, but it's not young for a welterweight. He's welterweights. The smaller they are, the earlier they seem to finish. It's just how it seems to be. Like Nonito Donaire being 38 and still a wicked bantam is like a freak.
I love the ages, right? I love looking at like the top 10s and seeing like what the average age is, because it always surprises me. It always surprises me. What do you reckon is the youngest age in the heavyweights top 10?
Well, it'd be Dubois, wouldn't it? 23.
He's not in the top 10.
Well, if I tell you Dubois not
anyone's top 10.
What do you think is the youngest age?
I think it'd be Anthony Joshua.
Joshua's 31.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're
28.
right. 31 is the youngest age. It's Anthony Joshua and Andy Ruiz, 31. That's the youngest in the top 10.
This is why I get paid
top
the big
11.
bucks.
The next youngest at 12 and 13 on BoxRec, for example, is Joseph Parker and Tony Yoka, both at 28.
Wow! Look at that.
I thought Hergovic and Rivas might be a bit.
Yeah, they're not really up there yet. I think some of the I think Bad Left Hook, they've got Hergovic in their top 10. But I don't see him as a top 10 heavyweight yet. I think there's too many fighters with too many good wins really to rank Hergovic that high. Same with, I think even Joyce. I think Joyce would squeeze in. I think he would maybe squeeze in the top 10. I'm not sure he would be in the top 10. But okay, excellent. Yeah, I kind of T. You expecting Spence to win as well?
I'm gonna say a late win. I'm gonna throw a bit of a Hail Mary late win at round 11.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, it could be one of those where Garcia, looks old. He's not the most active fighter, and like Al says, if Spence is the fighter he was or close to the fighter he was, then you'd expect him to be too much for Danny Garcia. But I think it's a good fight. I think it's an interesting fight. It's smart on PBC's part, because if Spence isn't the fighter he was and he loses to Danny Garcia, then it's one of their big names that claims the titles, and he can claim the big comeback. And so it means you can create the Furman rematch, you can create a Porter rematch, you can it makes absolute sense that they've thrown him in with a guy like Danny Garcia instead of throwing him in with a random. It makes absolute sense. That's about that, chaps. That is about it. There's obviously Anthony Yarde and Lyndon Arthur as well. We expecting Anthony Yarde to win that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, probably.
Yes.
But he's another one. I mean, I think you may have mentioned on the pod with Zanon about him and Buatsi. Hopefully, we'll see that fight late next year. Yeah. I think everyone wants to see it, and I guess all roads point to Buatsi winning that. Yeah,
that'd be an interesting fight. Al, do you think there's any chance that Frank Warren sticks some laxatives in Lyndon Arthur's food so he's fucked up and Anthony Yarde can't win? Or Anthony Yarde wins? Do you think he's going to do absolutely everything to protect him?
Yeah, I mean, it would be a bad month if they end up having to have Yarde and Dubois fall down the snake rather than climb the ladder. It'd be a bad month for Uncle Frank. But I don't see that happening, so I think we'll be all right.
All right. TG, you expecting any Tonya Harding kind of escapades going on?
maybe Billy Joe Saunders gets kneecapped to miss another fight.
What other boxing podcast would you get an ice skating reference? It's just not going to happen anywhere else. Thanks for that, chaps. Appreciate your time, and we will talk again soon.
Yeah. Laters.
Ciao.
Bye. See ya.